from the misty shores of Anglo-Saxon England to the global stage of modern Britain. The British monarchy has stood as a symbol of continuity, tradition, and power for over 1,000 years. It's a story filled with ambition, intrigue, love, betrayal, and the enduring struggle for power. Join us on a journey through time as we explore the entire history of the British monarchy, from Alfred the Great to Elizabeth II. Our story begins in the late 9th century, a time of chaos and conflict. England was not yet a unified kingdom, but a patchwork of warring territories, constantly under threat from Viking invasions. It was in this turbulent period that a remarkable leader emerged, Alfred the Great. Alfred wasn't just a warrior king. He was a visionary. Recognizing that unity was the key to survival, Alfred began the process of consolidating power, laying the foundations for what would eventually become the Kingdom of England. He defended his lands, reformed the military, and established a code of laws, earning his place in history as the first king of the Anglo-Saxons. But Alfred's legacy was more than military victories and legal reforms. He also promoted education and literacy, believing that knowledge was as important as strength. Under his reign, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, a vital source for our understanding of early English history, was commissioned. After Alfred's death in 899, his descendants continued to rule, but the peace he had fought for was always fragile. The Viking threat persisted, and by the 11th century, a new danger loomed, this time from across the English Channel. In 1066, following the death of Edward the Confessor, the throne was claimed by Harold Godwin's son, but his reign would be brief. William, Duke of Normandy, believed he had a right to the English crown, and he was prepared to fight for it. The Battle of Hastings marked a turning point in English history. William the Conqueror emerged victorious, and with his coronation, the Norman dynasty began. William's reign was transformative. He introduced feudalism, restructured the English aristocracy, and began building the imposing castles that would the landscape for centuries. But his reign also set the stage for future conflicts, as the Normans sought to impose their will on a land still deeply connected to its Anglo-Saxon roots. Fast forward to the 12th century, and England was once again plunged into chaos, this time during a period known as the Monarchy. The death of Henry I without a male heir led to a brutal civil war between his daughter Matilda and her cousin Stephen of Blois. This bitter conflict tore the country apart, but it also set the stage for the rise of the Plantagenet dynasty. Matilda's son, Henry II, would eventually claim the throne, becoming the first Plantagenet king and establishing a line that would rule for over 3 centuries. Henry II's reign was marked by both achievement and controversy. He expanded his empire to include much of France and sought to reform the English legal system, laying the groundwork for the common law. But his reign was also marred by his conflict with Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, which culminated in Becket's murder, a crime that would haunt Henry for the rest of his life. With Elizabeth's death, the throne passed to the Stuarts, beginning with James I, the son of Mary, Queen of Scots. James's reign saw the unification of the English and Scottish crowns, but the Stuart period would be far from peaceful. Religious tension, financial struggles, and political conflicts would define the Stuart era. The Gunpowder Plot of 1605 was a stark reminder of the dangers James faced, but it was his son, Charles the First, who would lead the monarchy into its darkest hour. Charles I's belief in the divine right of kings brought him into conflict with Parliament, sparking the English Civil War. The war pitted royalists against parliamentarians in a brutal conflict that ended with Charles's execution in 1649. For the first time in its history, England was a republic, albeit a short-lived one. After a decade of Republican rule under Oliver Cromwell, the monarchy was restored in 1660 with Charles II. The Stuart line continued, but the balance of power had shifted. The Glorious Revolution of 1688, which saw James II deposed in favor of William of Orange and Mary II, marked the beginning of constitutional monarchy in Britain, where the power of the king or queen was limited by law. The death of the last Stuart monarch, Queen Anne, in 1714 led to the rise of the Hanoverians. George I, a German prince, was brought to the throne under the Act of Settlement, which ensured a Protestant succession. His reign marked the beginning of a new era, as the British Empire began its rapid expansion across the globe. The 18th and 19th centuries saw Britain emerge as a global superpower. Under the Hanoverians, the British Empire expanded to become the largest in history, encompassing territories on every continent. This period also saw the development of the modern British parliamentary system, with power increasingly shifting from the monarchy to elected representatives. The reigns of George III, the loss of the American colonies, and the Napoleonic Wars. George III's long reign was marked by both triumph and tragedy. His victory over Napoleon secured Britain's place as the dominant European power, but his reign also saw the loss of the American colonies, a blow that would have far-reaching consequences. George's later years were marred by mental illness, leading to the regency period under his son, who would later become George IV. The 19th century was defined by the reign of Queen Victoria, the longest-serving monarch at the time. Her reign saw the British Empire reach its zenith, with the sun never setting on her vast domains. The Victorian era was a time of industrialization, cultural flourishing, and profound social change. But it was also an era of stark contrast, with great wealth coexisting with deep poverty and inequality. With Victoria's death in 1901, the throne passed her son, Edward VII, marking the beginning of the House of Windsor. The 20th century brought unprecedented challenges for the monarchy, from the two world wars to the decline of the British Empire. Edward VIII's abdication in 1936 shocked the world, but it was his brother, George VI, who would lead Britain through the dark days of World War II. His steady leadership and his partnership with Prime Minister Winston Churchill helped Britain endure one of its greatest trials. Following George VI's death in 1952, the throne passed to his daughter, Elizabeth II. Her reign, the longest in British history, has seen the monarchy adapt to the rapidly changing world of the 20th and 21st centuries. From the decolonization of Africa and the Caribbean to the challenges of a media-driven age, Elizabeth II has overseen a period of profound transformation. Elizabeth II's reign has been marked by dedication, stability, and an unwavering commitment to her role. As the British monarchy looks to the future, the legacy of Elizabeth II will be one of resilience, adaptability, and continuity. The British monarchy is more than just a series of rulers. It's a living institution that has shaped and been shaped by the history of a nation. From Alfred the Great to Elizabeth II, each monarch has left their mark, contributing to the complex and fascinating story of Britain.